Hi, everyone. Welcome to Around the Ladder. I'm Erika Steinberg, and this is the podcast about career paths that don't follow the usual script. We've all heard about climbing the corporate ladder, but real careers often zigzag, they stall, they take unexpected turns. If your journey hasn't been a straight climb up, you're in the right place. I love the idea of going around the ladder and finding a path that fits who you really are. And in the show, I talk with people who have taken unconventional routes, either by choice or by chance, and they found success on their own terms. Today's guest is my friend Steve Fretzin. Steve is an internationally recognized business development coach for individual lawyers, which of course is how we met. Steve is a five-time author. He's a regular contributor to Above the Law, which is a lot of fun if you haven't checked it out already. And he's also the host of the Be That Lawyer podcast. Steve's latest book, Be That Lawyer, 101 Top Rainmaker Secrets to Growing a Successful Law Practice, is already a bestseller. Steve helps attorneys grow their practices without selling, without chasing, and without wasting time. Steve, I'm so happy that you're here. Welcome to the show. It's nice to be here together.
Yeah, it's nice to get together again and have an opportunity to talk.
Yes, yes. So I want to dive right into your work with lawyers because I'm one of those people like you. I've been working with lawyers most of my career. Actually, no, for you, I think most of your career. For me, it's my entire career. Tell us about what you do and also what led you to work with lawyers.
Yeah, so as you said earlier, it wasn't anything I set out to do. In fact, I think I avoided lawyers because my father practiced for 40 years, and I just remember growing up being grilled on the regular by him, and his negotiating skills and his questioning skills far exceeded my drunken teenager avoidance skills. So, but it just was never a glimmer in my eye that law or legal would be an area of focus. I kind of came up the food chain of sales jobs as a sales professional, and I've always been very good with people, and ultimately ended up starting a sales coaching business in 2004 called Sales Results Inc., which is not named for attorneys to join. It was for entrepreneurs, right? I mean, that name should scare the dickens out of attorneys, and it did, by the way.
The S word, the dreaded S word.
The dreaded S word, the four-letter word, right? So, five-letter? Anyway. So I built a very successful sales consultancy coaching business primarily around the concept of what I call sales-free selling, which is the title of my first book and the theme of my methodology, which is we don't have to be aggressive and hardcore and salesy to grow business. There's ways to do it through relationships and in a more natural, fluid way to identify fit, to identify a win-win. But what I never realized was how little education lawyers received on business development, and that they were really ill-equipped to know what to do and how to do it. So they were all just out winging it. And so in 2008-9, when the recession happened, I started getting referred by all my entrepreneur and sales clients, lawyer friends of theirs. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. And I think between the lack of education and knowledge on the subject and the fact that I had a sales-free methodology, one led to two to three, then a firm, then another. And I think it was about a year and a half to 2 years. It ended up becoming about 85% of my total business. And I said, this makes a lot of sense. If I was going to specialize, and I was already a specialist in business development, but to specialize in an industry like legal, that's really where, I was telling the lawyers, you need to specialize. And here I hadn't taken my own medicine. So that's how, as a non-lawyer with a tough lawyer father, I came around and I think it's 17, 18 years now that I've been deeply entrenched in the legal community and absolutely loving it.
Yeah, well, that's good because I've heard that your clients describe you as a business development therapist. I've been called the marketing therapist, so I totally get that. Or the lawyer whisperer, which that one I really like. So I have my own thoughts on this, but tell me, what does that mean, and why do you think lawyers need that kind of support?
I think it's not what they signed up for. It's not a part of lawyering that, and again, I'm going back to my late the late great Larry Fretzin, my father. He never thought of himself as a salesperson. He never thought or had to engage in marketing, business development, branding. In fact, the ARDC rules were very strict back in the day, so he really couldn't. But what he didn't realize, because it wasn't called anything, is that he was a great relationship developer. He was developing relationships with his adversaries in court. He was developing relationships, friends and family, and also, he would plop himself in on a floor of lawyers in the Loop of Chicago, and everybody knew he was the smartest guy in the room, and that's where the business went. Give it to Larry; he knows everything about everything. Back when you could be a generalist, by the way. So I think it's interesting how when you find a niche and you see a need and you realize that there's something calling you that you can fulfill it, and that's what I've been doing. It's been phenomenal.
Yeah, yeah. Do you find that there's certain advice that you are giving to lawyers on a consistent basis if they feel stuck or if they feel overwhelmed?
For sure. I think it's, used to be setting big, nasty, hairy goals that were very scary. And I think we've learned today that, incremental growth and better habits and better mindsets tend to get better results. And when you do that, then the big goal gets achieved. So we kind of break it up into small things. But I'm very fortunate that the lawyers that come to me already know that they've got to change. They already are coming to me. They won't even schedule a meeting with me if they don't already know that there's something that they've got to fix, or they want to at least hear what options look like for someone like them to make improvements. And so it's really about having the right mindset is sort of step one, and having the right attitude that business development isn't a dirty thing. What it actually is very similar to lawyering. It's solving problems.
Mm-hmm.
You're a lawyer, you have solutions. You have clients that have problems, you're solving problems, but you can't solve their problems without getting them to realize you're the person they should be dealing with. So we have to put the great lawyers together with having a great process or system of how to walk a buyer through a buying decision to recognize the fit, or that there's a win-win, or that this is a great, this is peanut butter and chocolate coming together. We're making Reese's, right? And there's wonderful things that can happen when great professionals come together and figure out that there's a good fit.
Yeah, I find that in marketing, because you're on the business development side, I focus more on marketing. I am always telling people, they say, I don't like to sell. I don't like to sell. I don't like marketing. It feels icky. And I tell them all the time just to change the feeling of that. You have a skill set. You can help people in a certain way. All you're doing is making sure that the people who need your help know that you're available to help them. That's it.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that can change the feeling of it. If they can really embrace that, it can change the feeling of it. And then it feels more comfortable to go forward and to share information.
Well, and they don't even realize that, there's a top brain surgeon, and I have an uncle who needs to have brain surgery and his life is on the line. And I'm just not going to say you should talk to this top brain surgeon. No, of course I'm going to say, I know I'm going to save your life in some way by referring you to the person who can actually save your life. And lawyers are the same. They have the set of skills. They have a track record of success. They can help a lot of people, but they're also the best kept secret. I don't think that's a good recipe.
Yeah, I have said to so many firms, you're the best kept secret. You don't want to be the best kept secret.
No, that's not a great. And again, waiting for the phone to ring has sort of been, the promised land for attorneys. Like, oh, my phone just rings and rings and rings. Well, if you just count on that, and then there's a recession, you count on that, and now, oh, by the way, the government's changed, and the tariffs, and there's law firms breaking up and getting attacked and whatever. Like, you just don't know. And counting on the phone ringing, that's going to work for maybe 2% of the legal population. But they've put their time in to get to that point. Most attorneys haven't put their time in to get the phone ringing consistently, and that's where marketing and business development work together hand in hand to ensure that people aren't, just waiting for the phone and staring at it every day going, geez, things are really slowing down. That's a very uncomfortable place to be.
Yeah, there. And the whole idea that you're going to come up as an associate and work with a partner, and then that partner is going to retire and hand you a gift wrapped present. Here's the practice, you take it over. That's long gone. I mean, again, except maybe in like 1 to 2% of the cases.
Yeah, they're just not think they're. It's hard to think of the future. I know that's maybe cliche saying it, but that's really what we need to do is we need to think 2, 5, 10 years down the road.
Yeah.
Where do we really want to be, and then what do we have to do to work backwards to get there? And I think we're all just kind of living day to day, just hoping to get through the next day, with our coffee and our bourbon at the end of the night or whatever. And the kids are okay, all right, that's fine. But we do need to start planning and executing and thinking about the future and really protecting ourselves from the chance that things are going to go south in some way or that the phone it will stop. And that's challenging to do.
Yeah. Yeah. You and I had a good time running through the bourbons that we like. So
That's it.
coffee is coffee. Bourbon is something else. So you've written all these books. You have your podcast, which is so much fun. I loved being on it. I love listening to it. What is your process that you find you turn to for turning sometimes very complex business concepts into advice that lawyers can really act on? Because
Yeah.
it is new for them. It's a different language. So I imagine you have to really break it down.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's been my claim to fame or my MO or however we want to break it down. The 20,000-foot theory that I used to hear from managing. I interviewed a bunch of managing partners before podcast was even a glimmer in my eye. And their advice was, you got to get out there. And I was like, okay, so can you give me a little bit more? And they, well, no, I just tell my people, you got to get out there. I'd be like, all right, this is like unpublishable because that's such terrible advice in the sense that they're not wrong, but being out there just wastes time. There's a lot of people that are out there and they're just spinning their wheels, hundreds of hours a year, not getting any traction or movement. So what I try to do is I try to break down, I don't want to say literally because that word is overused, but it is kind of literally everything a lawyer needs to do into a process. Step 1, do this, say that. Step 2, do this, say that. So that whether you're networking in a one-on-one meeting, you're attending an event, you're attending a conference, you're meeting with a friend, you're in the friend zone. How do I handle that meeting? What do I do? What do I say? What do I ask? All of that is laid out at their feet so they can customize it for their personality. They customize it for their practice area, who they're meeting with, what's their relationship. But ultimately, having steps in language is one of the key things that I'm providing for lawyers that they don't have. Similar to if a lawyer goes into a courtroom, what do I do? What do I say is kind of an important part of that process. If you walk into a courtroom without a process, without language, you're going to kind of look stupid and be a little reckless with your client. So I'm happy to give you an example too, if you'd like.
Oh yeah, I would love one.
Okay. So let's say this is one of my favorites. Let's say that you have a client that absolutely loves you. You have made more money for that client, saved the day for that client, et cetera, et cetera. But the client's never referred you. So I have a series of steps that I talk about in language that accompanies it. But the short version is you have to get them to agree to that you're valuable and that referring you to other general counsels or CEOs would be useful for everybody. Mm-hmm. And so there's a number of different languages, 3 options I can provide. One I call the quid pro quo, which is very clear. I've helped you and referred you and I've done so much, to try to help your business over the years. And I would really be meaningful based on the large network you have if you were in a position to have a conversation with me about people GCs and CEOs that I can talk to, because I think there could be a lot of value in that. Mm-hmm. Would you be open to that? So permission-based, quid pro quo, I've given value nonstop. Now it's time to ask. They should fall over me to help. Okay. The second one is happy, happy, which is a dumb name, but we use it and it's funny and it makes people remember it. And it's that, Erika, you've been so happy with the services that we've provided. You've told me on so many occasions how we've saved the day and nothing brings me greater happiness and satisfaction. And I'm just wondering, because I know you're at the golf club all the time, drinking bourbons with your golf buddies, that there might be 1 or 2 that I should be talking to as well. I could help them in a similar fashion. Would you be open to just taking a few minutes and talking that out? So we're right. So we're putting it in the language, in the way that it's being set up, permission based. So it makes it very challenging for someone to sort of reject it. And if either of those 2 concepts are giving anyone that's listening angst, okay, there's a third one. And this is admitting that everything I've just done is uncomfortable, because you're hearing this, you're going, Steve, that sounds very uncomfortable. So let's admit this discomfort And this is called, this also a stupid name called okay, not okay. I'm going to come across as not okay, which I am because I'm uncomfortable as an attorney asking this client to, give me something. And so I'm going to admit it. And then I'm going to make the ask and then watch them fall all over me like my wife would come to me if I was, not feeling well with aspirin and tea or whatever. Okay. So it goes something like this. Erika, there's something I've been meaning to ask you. And if I'm being honest, I'm super uncomfortable with it because it goes against the grain on everything that I do. But I know how happy you've been with the work we've done. And I just have to believe there's one or two GC friends, maybe someone that's worked under you in the past that we should be talking to in a similar fashion. I think we could probably be adding some value for these other companies. Was that something you'd be open to talking about, or did I overstep my boundaries here? Now you say that. Say
That
again?
one, even hearing that one makes me feel like, oh, no, I'm totally open to this conversation.
Yes, you are going to fall all over me to help me and help me generate new business because I'm taking a not okay approach to something that is on me, but you're going to be so happy to help. People don't realize how much people want to help. So they just think I'm asking for something I didn't deserve, or I'm asking for something I shouldn't be asking for. If you've done the good work and you've put in your hours and you've saved the day and you've offered value beyond lawyering, which hopefully you're doing, that's another whole set of process, then you should be, and they're just not thinking about you proactively, you have to interject. And I know there's some people that don't like that idea, but I'm telling you, that's where the low-hanging fruit is. That's where the business is that most lawyers have a table of money stacked to the ceiling and they're walking around it all day. And it's what I just said. And that's a part of it. But you could see like having a process and having language changes the attitude and it just changed your attitude in 30 seconds about how you were feeling about that whole made up scenario.
Yeah.
But lawyers need process and systems and language in order to accomplish the things that seem very difficult. But once they do it and they get the proof and evidence that this works, then it's like, oh, I could just do this every time. And then that's when the business flows in.
Yeah, I really like that because I could see how, you want to follow steps because it makes it a lot easier for you in the beginning. And following those steps and seeing the results, I would think results in shifting your mindset about it. So then maybe the next time it's a little bit easier. And the third time it's so much easier. And before you know it, it's so natural. And you think, I can't believe I was ever nervous about having these kinds of conversations.
Yeah, exactly. So the idea that a lawyer works with me, just as an example, gets all these systems, processes, methodologies, language, internalizes them, gets the evidence and proof that it all works, right? Because they're doing it, trying it, seeing that. And by the way, they're in a room with other people that are doing it too, because I teach a class.
Yeah.
And it all, then they're like, I can't even believe I just wasted 10 or 20 or even 30 years not doing this. They're just blown away by how actually easy it is, and that they've really just like missed a lot of millions of dollars potentially over a number of years not doing. And this is just one example of one part of the program, but there's a lot of different things that are going to help people generate, sustainable, very high-end work.
Yeah. Yeah. You've worked with so many lawyers. I would imagine there is a lot of consistency or a lot of through lines that you see in your work. Can you share like some of the common myths or mistakes that you see lawyers making when it comes to business development, even at a senior level?
I think most of it comes down to understanding that business development needs to become a daily or weekly habit, and that when it works and you get busier because of it, you can't stop and say, well, now I'm busy, I'm just going to take a break from it. And so now you're on this roller coaster ride of really, really busy, really, really slow, really, really busy. That's no way to go. So a lot of what it has to do is we need to do business development, and maybe we go from 55 miles an hour down to 35, but we need to also think about how are we delegating? How are we automating? How are we repurposing content? How are we doing things to make things super efficient? How are we leveraging, for example, our firm? Because I'm getting tons of work for me, but I'm not feeding my partners, when that may be the windfall of my originations, and I don't have to do the work. I just have to manage the relationships, which takes a lot less time.
Yeah.
So there's all these myths about, I'm not a natural born salesperson, so this isn't for me. There's another one like this is going to take too much time and I won't even bother. Or even like social media, LinkedIn, like there's so many people posting. Why do I want to be a part of that noise? And all of those can be demystified and handled based on just some clarity and talking with you and I about the reality of what it takes to be successful as a rainmaking attorney today.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it again, it to me, it all comes down to shifting your mindset. And well, I remember even in-house, we used to tell people all the time, I would tell practice leaders, oh, we're so busy, we're so busy. I'm like, this is the time when you need to focus on marketing and business development. Don't wait until you're not busy.
Yeah.
This is when you're at your busiest, you still need to keep this up. It's a long game and it's a forever game. So it pays to find ways to be comfortable with it and to make it more natural and to make it work for you rather than continue to be something that you dread.
Yeah.
I would imagine that working with you helps people find that level of comfort.
Yeah, I mean, let's make it fun. Like, let's have a good
Yeah.
time doing it. But also, here's the dirty little secret on the side that there are people out there that are hustling for business that attend networking event after networking event and conference after conference, and they're speaking all the time and they're doing all these things, and they're just wondering, why am I not getting any of this business? And what they don't realize is that they've been doing the same stuff for 10 years in a row without making any improvements,
Ah,
right? It's a definition of insanity.
mhm.
And so it's like the idea that you had, and this is a great marketing thing, but they can't read the label from inside the bottle,
Yeah.
right? And that's what's going on. And so how do people who aren't being coached or people that aren't introspective improving, right? So I'm playing a sport and there's a part of this, like I'm playing pickle and there's a thing called the third shot. It's like the hardest shot in the game. It's like a drop shot from backcourt. And if you get that shot down, you're going to control the whole game. If you don't have that shot down, then you're a banger and you're just like everybody else. And so like I'm working all the time on that shot to get it down because I know that's the key to getting to the next level with my game to compete with better people at the higher level. In business development for lawyers, it's a lot of the same old stuff without looking at what I'm doing. Is it working? Like they don't know why they lost the deal.
Yeah.
You could talk to me for 5 minutes and I'll tell you why, because I
Mhm.
can debrief that with you in 5 minutes and I'll know exactly why you lost the deal or why they're stalling or ghosting you or whatever it might be, because I have all that experience. I need to help lawyers own those experiences, know what's wrong and what's right, and then fix the stuff that's wrong so they continue to do what's right and right and right. And when you get better and better and better at any skill, cooking, making bourbon, golf, whatever it is, that's what is missing from business development for many attorneys.
Yeah. And I like to tell people also be curious. I mean, for me in marketing, I'm always curious about my clients, about the firm as a whole, about the individual lawyers. I ask a lot of questions to get to know them. What role does curiosity play in business development? And like, how do you encourage lawyers to embrace it?
It's huge because again, there's opportunities to be a friend. There's an opportunity to listen and demonstrate empathy and friendship. There's opportunities to listen that they have a problem that you don't solve. It's not a legal problem. It's a business problem. It's a personal problem. And you figure out how to help them in some way, which solidifies the relationship so much more than winning the matter, right? Because you're stepping up. My son wants to go to this school and he can't get in, and you know someone at that school that's at the admissions, and you make a call on my behalf. I just did this for a friend of mine, and I helped his son get a job. I just called the guy that worked there and I said, look, this young man, he's hungry. He's got a marketing degree. He just needs a chance. He's great. His father's top pedigree, smart kid, got the job. Now, he earned the job. He went through 2 interviews and did all that, but just it helped. It helped. And it really made a lot. It meant a lot to him and meant a lot to his father, who's a good friend of mine. So then the last piece is like, how are you asking questions and being curious, because you find out that the GC has a lot of things on the desk that you can help with. You identify problems that your firm can address that again might bring more business and more, and you're helping them out, you're helping your firm out, you're driving up origination. Why? Because you're interested, because you're
Yes.
curious, to your
Yes.
point. Yeah,
Yes. And you ask
fantastic.
some questions. Yeah. You ask some questions. So, for your business, what is the most unexpected lesson that you've learned on your journey? I know that I have found some interesting things on my own journey as a business owner, but I'm curious about yours.
There is a theme going on with me that is I want to help the industry and I want to help every lawyer. Writing books, podcasts, videos, articles, everything I can do to help the industry. And I guess when I pass on, I want to leave the industry better than I found it as a legacy. The thing that I didn't like, I thought I could help everybody. Like I'm here, everybody. Look at me, and this is what I'm doing. I can help everybody. Not the case. I only can help about 5%, really help about 5% of the legal population. Those are the ambitious, hungry, interested in learning attorneys that say, I don't know everything. And if I need a plumber, I'm going to bring in a plumber. I'm not going to try to fix all my pipes in my home. I'm going to bring in a specialist that will help me get to the next level. And that's not everybody. So I think that's my big lesson is I think I went in wide-eyed, like I can help everybody. The reality is I'm going to try to help everybody, but realistically, I'm going to help, a very small percentage of the population, which is, by the way, the nicest, best group of people I could ever imagine working with. Like every day, I just had lunch with RJ. He just asked me about his firm and gave me, he wanted my advice on running a separate business and all this stuff. And I mean, it was just a big love fest the whole time. And I just, that's what my day is. And that's why I'm just smiling all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you do, of course, you work with a lot of lawyers. I know you work in groups. You work with people individually also?
So I only work with individual attorneys, and I put them in either my coaching and training program, which is a class and one-on-ones, and so they're a part of a community. I also run currently 4 peer advisory groups, which are like mastermind groups for high functioning business developing attorneys. It's a growth focus. So we're not getting into the weeds on technology and operations. We skim it, but it's like, hey, let's share what are our goals? What do we need to fix, improve? How do we get to the next level? And hold each other accountable as a family outside of our firms to confidentially, get to the next level. And then I'm facilitating those and coaching those folks and staying with them. And those are really the only 2 things I do.
Yeah. And I would imagine that cohort work is really important because if you are struggling or stuck, or you just know that you need help in something, it always helps to see that you're not alone and that other people are going through something similar. And I think that changes the calculus of things a lot as well.
Yeah. I mean, people can get vulnerable and talk about their problems. And then they realize, you know what? A number of other people in the group have either had the same problem or are currently going through it.
Yeah.
And the solutions that are provided by me and the group, people either, then they're committing to what they're going to change for the net between now and the next meeting. Like it's just this unbelievable machine of not only love, but also caring and interest in seeing each other be successful. And you just don't necessarily always get that in the competitive legal landscape, or even like some of the cutthroat stuff that happens at law firms where people are very, private about their clients or private about like they're lawyers that don't even know like how to make equity. There's nothing laid out for them. The culture is such of just don't ask questions, do your job. I mean, these lawyers need some transparency and they need a little TLC.
Yeah, I agree. When you think about your clients now, what are a few, I guess, tactical things, if there are tactical things, but what are a few things that your most successful clients are doing differently than others?
Great question. Number one is I think they're being very mindful about their brand. Even if they're at a firm, I'm working with them on their personal brand, that they need to be out there as a thought leader. They need to be out there educating, leveraging AI, leveraging social media to make sure that they're known and thought of and remembered when something comes down. And while that's going on, I also want them to, really focus on creating a plan that drives them towards the low-hanging fruit. So it's not, hey, you've been doing this for 20 years, you've got 100 clients, now go out and meet a bunch of strangers, right, at a bunch of networking events.
Yeah.
I'm always trying to help them figure out what's the least amount of time and effort they can put in to get the highest reward. So when we talk about, like, you have 100 clients, you haven't asked any of them for business, all you've done is do great work and make friends, we need to go into that well and we need to start pulling water out of it, because there's nothing easier than that. Everything else I'm going to tell you is going to be harder.
Yeah.
So let's think about what's cross marketing, bringing in additional business to your firm. there's not much easier than that. And I'm not saying it's easy, like you've got to have internal great relationships, you've got to have great relationships with clients, you've got to ask questions and be curious and pull it all out. But ultimately, is that easier than going out and meeting a stranger, trying to like build a relationship so that they can connect you with some client down the road in a year? Yeah, it's a lot easier. So I think these are the things that we need to really focus on. My most successful clients make business development, I almost want to say like the most important part of their job. Like they care about it as much or even more than many of them get out of client work. Like their job is to like, hey, how do I stop billing 50 hours, 60 hours a week? And how do I get into the rainmaking business where I can take on and work with the clients I enjoy and dump off everything else to the associates and the other members? That's a dream come true, because there are many attorneys out there, Erika, where they have 5 bosses, right? All the partners that are sending them the work. Then they've got 15 clients. They're all telling this person what to do. So you got 20 bosses, was that Office? What is that? Office Work? Or what's the name of that? There's a movie. The he's like, I have 8 bosses, and like they couldn't believe it. The 2 Bobs. Yeah. Office Space.
Office Space. That was it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Don't ask
the 2 Bobs.
Don't ask me memory questions. These
sorry. Yeah, the 2 Bobs. Like they're like, how many bosses do you have? But that's how I think lawyers feel when they're only taking on work from their partners instead of having their own clients.
Yeah, and it can feel. I mean, even hearing you describe it, it's making me twitch.
Me too. I don't know how I would handle that.
Exactly. Having been in law firms that have hundreds of partners, you have that many bosses. Everybody's a winner in the business. So
yeah. I was in real quick. I was in corporate, the corporate world where I had like 5 or 6 bosses all at different levels, all telling me what to do. And I mean, it was just a nightmare. It's like I just found myself hiding half the day because I didn't know who was going to hit me up next for what.
Yeah. And especially when everything conflicts with everything else. It's like, well, what do I do now?
Exactly.
So now you've been doing this work with lawyers for what you said, coming up before 20 years. What is something that you would tell your younger self if you could? Because I imagine that your younger self, if you said, oh yeah, you're going to be working with lawyers and you're going to love it, you'd be like, what?
There isn't a person that knew me in high school or even college that would imagine that I would do what I'm doing now, writing books and podcasting and helping all the lawyers around the world. Like there isn't a person, because I was like one of these, 1980s ADHD kids, solid C student, barely eked through, a college degree just to go into sales. And it's just like, sometimes you just have to let things evolve, and you have to make good decisions about your progression in your career. And that does a lot of it. I met a coach, and that coach, worked with me and really influenced me and helped me fall in love. And then on the other side of it, my father always said, if you ever have a chance to run your own business, take it.
Yeah.
Because then when you work for yourself and you don't have anybody telling you what to do, it can be one of the greatest experiences. And he was 100% right. By the way, not for everybody, but for me and the way I'm built, I would never be able to go back and work for someone else at this stage.
Yeah. I mean, now I was a company girl in law firms for decades. And I say it probably was 3 years into having my business where all of a sudden it hit me. I was like, I'm an entrepreneur. How did I not know this? Like I have all these ideas and I'm putting them into action. How did I not realize this about myself? But I also feel like everything comes to you when it's supposed to. So, this was the right time for me. And I'm very happy to have been able to pivot at age 50 into something completely different.
But we make our own luck. I mean, you had to make a decision at some point to transition, just like I had to make a decision to transition to starting. By the way, my best friend in the world, when I told him I was going to start my own sales coaching business, I don't know if he laughed in my face, but he said, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And I can't believe you're going to quit a job where you're making great money to do this thing and all that. And every time I go out to dinner with him, I give him a little poke because come on. Give me a break. This has been a 21-year adventure for me, and I wouldn't change a thing.
Yeah. And who knew? I mean, we're both working with lawyers, and I can tell one of the reasons I love talking to you is because I can tell that you love this work as much as I do. And people think I'm nuts. They're like, how can you work for, now 30 years with lawyers and law firms? I'm like, I really love it. They're smart people doing interesting work for some of the most interesting clients in the world. So how can I not like this?
Yeah. Well, I
But
think part of it is we get to choose our own clients, right? I mean, you're not being pushed
yes,
into, you
yeah,
have to work with this egomaniac, crazy person, right? So I think there are people that have to take on clients or they have to take on work to pay a bill. And I think what we have found, I'm going to assume you're in this category with me, we want to work with people we like. We want to work with people who are smart and people who are going to, you know, take the advice of what we're giving them and do
yes,
something productive with it. Otherwise, like, what are we doing?
yeah, yeah. I agree. I agree. So I have one last question. I can't believe how quickly this half hour plus has flown by already, but this seems to happen when you and I talk. What unexpected lessons or rewards really have come from you going around your own ladder rather than climbing a more traditional one?
I mean, just the idea that I'm in my home office. I'm in Fort Sheridan, Illinois, which is this old military base right by Lake Michigan. I have my own hours, my own business. I make great money. I'm helping lawyers all over the world. I mean, this is not a traditional, you're in sales, stay in sales, move up the food chain of sales and stay that route. The idea of going off on my own and creating a business from nothing and building it up to something where, I believe I have one of the better brands in legal right now, the Be That Lawyer brand. And it's just, it's not the normal path that I would have thought, and it's not the normal path most people would take. And when opportunity comes your way and you see a path through it, you got to take it sometimes.
Yeah. By the way, how did you come up with the name Be That Lawyer? I
Oh,
forgot
I
to.
wish I could tell you that was my baby. I've got a client of mine from when I worked with marketing agencies. So like I was working with marketing agencies and web companies, and I was in 50 industries. And one of my old clients was a branding guy. This is a guy who could walk down a grocery store lane and he could look at labels and see which ones were just dying. And he would like cold call them and say, look, I have some ideas for you on how to fix your label. The brand's off. And he was getting business. So this guy knows branding. So he interviewed me, evaluated it, and he came to me with 10 ideas. This was like the second idea. And I said, I know you have 8 more. I want to see them because they're fun, but I don't need to see any more. Be That Lawyer embodies everything that I'm doing for lawyers. Is you want to be that lawyer, the one that everyone is talking about. That's what I'm creating and helping lawyers with every day. And he showed me some other cool stuff, but I was like, no, we just go back to page 2.
No.
That's the one. I think he showed me page 1 just to give me something to compare it to. But that's how it came up, and I absolutely love the brand, and it's been, and people really embrace it.
Yeah, yeah, and it's so memorable. So
Yep.
wonderful. Well, that is it for this episode of Around the Ladder. Remember, there is no right way up. So take your detours, make your moves, keep carving your own path like Steve has done. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend or a colleague who's on their own unconventional journey. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Steve, thank you so much. This has been as much fun as I knew it was going to be. So I
My
really
pleasure.
appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.